brake so early, brake so early. Hey crew, I've got the red key to that 23 Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat King Daytona. We are going to take it for a drive, but first, let's check out how it looks on the inside and outside. This is it, folks. This is Dodge's last call Charger, preceded by the Super B and Swinger, and like those models, limited to 300 units. It's based on the Charger Hellcat Red Eye wide body, but made visually distinct by things like the Mopar hood pins and this Go Mango paint. It's a fiery orange color and contrasted by the satin chrome 20-inch wheels, wrapped in Pirelli P0 all-season tires, sized 305 section front and rear. Within those wheels are unique orange painted calipers for your Brembo 6-piston front brakes and 4-piston at the back. You of course have your Hellcat badges here, gloss black for the door mirrors and matte black for the window trim. The profile is a function of that mega hood bulge, pronounced fender flares, and that back black stripe with a special King Daytona script. The back end features a matte black lip spoiler, above an LED connected light bar with LED turn signals, over a black diffuser with 2 large chrome exhaust outlets. I've always appreciated the girth, the brawn of the Hellcat wide bodies. And while Go Mango isn't my favorite paint color, I like how it's done here on the King Daytona, the contrast of that color with these satin polished wheels and the front hood pins. My question for you is, which is the best looking last call Charger? Let me know in the comments, and let's check out the interior. Opening up and looking inside at this Black Nappa leather interior with a suede wrapped headliner and suede seat inserts that on the King Daytona have a ribbed pattern that I really like. It reminds me of some European sports cars. And the contrast stitching is in orange. It's also found here on the doors where there's injection molding up high, suede inserts, padded leather for your armrest. This piece around the window controls is hard plastic, as is the bottom panel. You do get a Harman Kardon sound system as standard. Stepping in, I have to duck my head quite a lot because the seat cushioning is pretty high. Behind my own seat at 6 feet tall, I've got good knee room, and it's a mix of leather, plastic, and more leather back here with a matte pocket. The foot pockets are nice and large, so thigh support is excellent. And headroom, not so much. So my head is pressed not against the roof, because that was suede wrapped and that would be fine, but rather against this piece of back glass, so it's extra uncomfortable and getting the thumbs down from me. In the middle, we have air vents with seat heat controls in 2 stages and 2 USB-A ports. If you wanted to put someone in the middle seat, it'd be tough because the drive shaft hump is large and the alley to get over is narrow. Plus, the middle seat is raised up, so if they were taller, they're definitely not fitting underneath that roof. If you don't have a middle passenger, then an armrest comes down with 2 cup holders, leather padding, and some storage. Let's check out the front next. Door close noise. Now, does that thud sound like it came from a $100,000 vehicle? No. But it also doesn't sound so cheap, just very average. The front 2 doors have smart keyless entry, and worth noting, with the handles, because they're top hinged, my fingers constantly feel like they're slipping off. I lack the confidence when opening up the doors. The front seats are more heavily bolstered, with Daytona stitched on the seat backs. They're also heated and ventilated with multi-way power adjustments. You get aluminum accented foot pedals, SRT floor mats. Tap this button here to pop up the trunk lid, and it does raise all the way up, revealing an extra large 17 cubic feet of space. The trunk floor is pretty recessed here, so if you're digging stuff out of the back, you've got to brace your lower back. To fold down the rear seats, you can't do it from back here. You've got to open up the rear doors and pull on the tabs. They fold down 60-40. There is a built-in handle to close the lid, and it requires very little effort to do so. The front doors feature 2 positions of driver's seat memory. Did I call it a Harman Kardon sound system? It's actually an Alpine sound system, sorry. 2 front 1-touch up-down windows, power adjusting, not power folding door mirrors, and there is no sunroof on the King Daytona. Stepping in, and then reaching way over to grab the door handle and close it up. Drivers find a suede-wrapped heated steering wheel on the King Daytona. Tapping the start-stop button to put it in accessory mode. find the red eyes of the Hellcat on the TFT display in between the two red-backed analog gauges. There's carbon fiber surrounding the gauge cluster and the 8.4-inch Uconnect 4 software infotainment system. Yes, it's getting on in years, but it's still easy to use, and it's got wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. On the passenger side is a special King Daytona badge baked onto this injection molded dashboard with orange stitching. Further down, we've got some physical settings for volume, tuning, climate, and some drive selections. This is not a wireless charging pad, though you can stick your phone here anyway. You get a DC outlet, leather topping the gear selector, more carbon fiber trim, a key slot, 2 cup holders, leather topping the padded armrest, which has actually a reasonable bit of storage with 2 USB-A ports and an auxiliary jack. Visibility is pretty good, and there's standard blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic. So yes, we have been looking at roughly the same interior for over a decade now, and you most certainly can find cheapy bits scattered throughout that don't match the price point. But the orange accents, the carbon fiber trim, and the suede do manage to spice it up a little bit. So now let's take the King Daytona Charger for a drive. All right, let's fire it up. Angry noises from the Supercharged V8 on startup. Hello cabin crew, thank you for joining me for this drive in the Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat King Daytona. The first thing we'll do is select our drive mode found here in the SRT dashboard, and then hitting drive modes shows you all the different settings you can choose from. We've got track, sport, custom, setting your power output, either 500 horsepower or the full 807, how aggressive you want your transmission shifting, whether you want the paddle shifters engaged, how firm you want the ride, the traction control system, how invasive you want it there, and then the steering heft and sensitivity. So we're gonna start in the auto mode, not customizing anything, and then I'm gonna pull back on the gear selector to go into reverse, prompting a screen filling but terribly low resolution, outdated backup camera. And I understand Dodge is trying to save money, not wanting to update too many things as this vehicle is fading off into the sunset. But why couldn't you just spend a few dollars on a better backup camera? You can't see anything at night with this system. We do have trajectory lines, thankfully, so I am going to back on out of here. Before I go down into drive, and we start off with a turning radius test. I give myself a wide berth, crank the wheel. My goodness, that is a mighty fine turning radius. And you wouldn't necessarily expect that with a 305 section front tire. You think it would push wide. But it's a better turning circle than my CT5V Blackwing, that's for sure. Now let's listen for the turn signal sound. This is peculiar. It sounds like, I don't know if this is gonna make sense, it sounds like a loud noise heard from further away, and so therefore softened. Does that make any sense? And how about the world famous horn test? Punchy, and I did have to use it this morning, so I know it gets the message across. Powertrain in the King Daytona, it's based on the Hellcat Red Eye, so we have the same 6.2 liter supercharged V8, but they did some engine recalibrations, and for that supercharger, so we have an additional 10 horsepower over the Red Eye for a total of 807 with 707 pound-feet of torque. That is routed through an 8-speed automatic gearbox only and sent to just the rear tires. Now, with the full 807 horsepower at your disposal, you might find it to be a little bit scary driving this vehicle because the throttle sensitivity, even in auto, is such that it just, whoa, let's go all the time, let's go. But you have an opportunity to scale that back down if you really want to meander in the Charger. So hit the Eco button, and that pulls it back down to 500 horsepower. And here, the throttle response is so much more slack. and you can just gracefully make your way up to speed. Now, I mean, still with 500 horsepower, there's never a time when you don't have enough power for a pass. But this is really where I like to just cruise in the Charger around town, because it's not going to startle you. It's not going to accidentally chirp the rear tires. You're just getting up and moving. And the 8-speed automatic is quite fluid. You don't really notice those gear changes much at all. The ride quality from these adaptive dampers here in the street setting of the suspension firmness is good. And I hesitate to say anything better than just good, because you are moving around quite a bit, even in the street setting. But the dampening is solid. It'll insulate you from the harshest of road blemishes. And what's helping that is the fact that these chairs are so darn thick. It's like the bump has to go through the suspension and then through like 8 or 10 inches of foam and padding to actually get to your body. And so you're better insulated than you would be with this suspension on a less cushy chair. I think these are just like armchairs pulled out of someone's living room and slapped into the cabin of this Charger. And as the pace now picks up, I'm gonna quiet up and we'll listen for the NVH level. For where the Charger starts, at $33,000, which, I mean, effectively that's what this vehicle is, just with more power, a lot more power and more features. But for around that starting point, the tire hum is subdued, the wind noise is quelled, the engine noise here in the eco mode at just partial throttle is not overbearing. And so, yeah, you can just cruise in the Charger Hellcat with all 807 horsepower and be perfectly fine. And I love that the steering isn't overactive, the tires aren't tram-lining on the surfaces, so I can stay relatively at ease. Now, of course, if you want to hear more noise, you can go into Sport, and the active valve exhaust system opens up, it downshifts quicker, you hear more of that supercharger whine, and of course this is a big reason why you bought the vehicle. But it's good to know that if you needed to just relax a little bit after work and not get out your anger, but just rather relax, that you can do it in the King Daytona. Now, sometimes you do need to unleash your fury at the right time and in the right place, and with the right outlet. Holy cow! Come on! The noise, that HEMI V8 roaring and the supercharger whining. And the power unleashing onto just the rear tires. 305 section P0s, but all seasons, and somehow they hold. They deliver, and you hurtle forward. This cacophony of angry noises blaring out at me. Now, for obvious reasons, this is so unlike a Tesla Model S. But for this particular reason, you could never be excused from saying, I didn't know how fast I was going, officer. And that's because a Model S Plaid, you just go real quick, and apart from the visuals, you don't realize how quick you're going. But in this vehicle, the performance, the speed, the sound is so permeating that there is absolutely no excuse for not being aware of how brutally fast you are traveling. Now I'm going to try out manual mode. So I'll click the gear selector over and pull on these paddles that are aluminum and look so presentable, but are really only like 3 inches tall, because back here they're stubby. I'm going to pull on those. Nice quick shifts from the torque converter. And spinning tires, still spinning, and there we go. Certainly don't do that mid-corner. But even in a straight line, you have to be paying attention. The shifts are readily there for you. Oh my goodness. And like the red eye, the red line has been increased to 6,500 RPM, so you do get to fully enjoy that. Supercharger 1. Oh, I need a minute. Just give me a sec. Now, as I'm taking that breather, I'm also going to take the opportunity to do a 0 to 60 test. And notice I didn't use the words real world, because I'm going to do something that you probably are never going to do just pulling up at a stoplight before going. And that is to use the line lock function. Here in the race options, I can activate that, hold my foot on the brake, pin the throttle, and make some smoke. Get some heat in the tires. Before we do launch control, you can set your RPM for launch here, and I've launched Hellcats in the past, and I know they easily overwhelm this system. So I'm gonna bring that down to 1,600 RPM. Then I'll activate it with a race box set up to record, holding my foot once again on the brake, pinning the throttle, letting it go. Already tire spin. Finally, we have traction in 0 to 60 in 4.89 seconds. It's about as good as it gets here. Because it really doesn't matter how much heat I put in these tires, there's still an all-season compound, and still this launch control system, regardless of how low or high you set the RPM, is overwhelmed by tire spin, at least on this compound. So unless you're staring at a drag strip with sticky tires on it, you're not really going to see Dodge's claim of 3.6 seconds to 60 for this car. In the real world, you're looking at mid to high 4s. But don't let that get you down, because this Hellcat King Daytona will do something no Tesla Model S Plaid or Lucid Air Sapphire could ever replicate. And that is traction control fully disabled. Smoke them if you got them, or rather, while you still have them. Now back in a context where adhesion from your tires, not merely dissolving them, is desirable, I'm going to move it into track drive mode for the ultimate aggression from the engine, the transmission, and the suspension system before I go into the performance pages, which do take a second to load. And let's look at the engine here as I prepare to unleash the Hellcat King Daytona on a curvy road to see how it performs. Now, the way Dodge approaches performance, specifically handling performance from its Hellcat, is with mega amounts of mechanical grip. So we've got those ultra wide 305 section squared off stance tires, beefy sway bars, and the suspension, which is now firmed up a lot to contain the body motions. We do have 4,600 pounds that we're working with here. So it's no small task to keep the body from rolling. You hear the complaints from those tires, but they're holding on here where I need them to most. Gosh, the thrust out of corners is ridiculous. You do have that limited slip differential at the back to help distribute the power. Oh, the straight line thrust is just tremendous. You do need to be patient. Ooh, those brakes, a little sketchy there. The 6 pistons up front, the 4 pistons in the back are working to slow this vehicle down, and I didn't have a good response from them on initial bite, and not a lot of confidence going deeper into the curves than I feel comfortable with, so I'm gonna have to brake earlier. Being aware of the weight transfer, the back end will rotate around. You can start to play with that, and in the track drive mode, the traction control system is the least invasive possible before you switch it off entirely. It is a big Bertha, but she absolutely hustles. The brakes are honestly the sketchiest part. I think it's brakes and the tire compound here not giving you that stopping power that you're desperate for when you can achieve the speeds in a straight line that this King Daytona can. The steering is not bad. It feels a bit flat in its communication. It's just kind of one-dimensional, not giving me a lot of the road surface felt through here, but it does provide communication about the limits of grip. And this transmission deserves some real credit. It's holding onto gears perfectly, not too hasty on the upshifts, and downshifting at the right times. You gotta love the powertrain. This supercharged motor where the power delivery is incredibly linear, and with 807 horses and 707 pound-feet, there's more than plenty, especially for a road like this. So much so that on this downhill portion, I'm wishing I had a little bit less because it's so tempting, but I'm having to brake so very early. And so, in comparison to my CT5V Blackwing on this road, which has the carbon ceramic brakes that are just not even an option here for the Hellcat, I lack the confidence relative to my car because I just don't trust the braking. And I don't trust the tires, but they're no summer rubber. Oh, brake so worthy, brake so worthy. So for this very tired old platform, and the limited resources we have at our disposal, and the sheer physics of this physique, this is really, really impressive. But I happen to know what a world-class performance sedan feels like on a good twisty road. And sadly, this ain't it. Gosh darn it, it's fun though. And as we pull it back to sane speeds and I move back into the auto drive mode, we can address the miles per hour word of the day, which for the 23 Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat King Daytona is vigorous, meaning active strength of body or mind. I mean, if I'm going to address the mind thing, if this vehicle had a brain, I'm not sure it would have too much going on up here. It's more brawn than brains, but my goodness, the brawn, the vigor is intense. Pricing and competition are just ahead, but first let's discuss the top speed and fuel economy for this King Daytona. Top speed at 203 miles per hour is the same as the Hellcat Red-Eye wide body. The fuel economy is 12 mpg in the city, 21 on the highway, and 15 combined. The starting price for the Hellcat Red-Eye wide body is $95,000, but this one as tested is 100,000 buckaroos. Now the Dodge Charger Hellcat is a muscle car four-door, and if you're looking at direct competitors, there's really only one. It's the vehicle I own, the Cadillac CT5V Blackwing, which starts at $93,000, makes 668 horsepower, gets to 60 in 3.6 seconds, has top speed of 205 miles per hour, and fuel economy of 15 combined. If you were to broaden that to other muscle cars, two doors included, then we've got the Chevy Camaro ZL1, which starts at $70,000, makes 650 horsepower, gets to 60 in 3.8 seconds, has a top speed of 191 miles per hour, and fuel economy of 16 combined. Or the Ford Mustang Dark Horse that starts at $61,000, makes 500 horsepower, gets to 60 in 4.2 seconds, has top speed of 166 miles per hour, and fuel economy of 17 combined. You probably saw this one coming, but I chose the Blackwing before, and I would choose it again. For me, it's because it's not just fast in a straight line, it also has a phenomenal Tremec 6-speed manual available to it, and it's just more sophisticated, more capable as a handling machine, while also being more luxurious and more comfortable. But the Hellcat is a completely different animal. It is so much more true to its muscle car roots. It's brash, it is purpose-built to put a fat grin on your face, and that's why I love it. Whether it's the regular Hellcat, the Red-Eye, or this last call King Daytona, all of them make me feel like a kid. And that is ultimately why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm here for the laughs, and I'm here ultimately to bond with cars. And I really have bonded with this one. And I'm so sad that Dodge is done with its muscle car duo, at least as we know it. Which would you guys choose though? Would you have the Ford Mustang Dark Horse, the Chevy Camaro ZL1, my car, the CT5V Blackwing, or this Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat in any of the varietals? Let me know in the comments, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this POV drive review. If you did, please like, comment, and share it. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell to get notified. And I'll see you again next time.